So thanks everyone for joining. Obviously, the goal today is to spend a couple of minutes talking about what our world's going to look like after COVID-19. Now, none of us really knows exactly what this is all going to look like when it's over, but my thinking is we should start planning today. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 14, 15 years now. Got a whole bunch of those certifications. The goal here is to go from general to specific. And so the general questions are, what's our life going to look like? The specific questions is what tools can we make use of now in Salesforce to better prepare our business? Changes that are going to go on that may require some modifications to your Salesforce instance. So the simple things, updating your company's business hours, staggered schedules. What are your customers? Are your customers changing their hours as well? Now, I talked to a couple of younger Salesforce workers today who did not know about a stay in touch request. Turns out that the stay in touch request was retired in spring or summer of 17. But the point here is to create your own stay in touch request. Reach out to your customers and ask them, hey, how can we help you? This is a great opportunity to call your customers, touch base with them, and find out what's changing. Remember, meeting rooms are going to have smaller capacities, schedule meetings, etc. Better logging for these face-to-face meetings. Maybe this is a good time to roll out something new. And then always remember, people are still going to be remote. Not every one of us is going back into the office. One of the key things about Field Service Lightning is it takes a while to set up. And so if you're going to increase your, if you're going to take time to clean vehicles between jobs, you may have to increase your travel time between jobs to accompany that. CPQ. For those people who have set up CPQ, we know we've got the same kinds of challenges. Product rules, price rules, bundles. Again, setting up our product bundles, setting up the price rules, it could take 100 hours. It could take 200 hours. And you don't want to be waiting for the market to open before you start doing these things. Let's use this as an opportunity to tie in the stay in touch request with some new offerings that we can provide as a company to help our customers out. And so what I'm going to help you build today, or show you how I built today, is just a quick view of using 3 questions to help target customers. And the first question is, how much has their business been impacted? The second question I'm going to ask is how much potential I have to help them grow, to help them change. And then the last question that I want to know is can we help? And the strategy behind here is the most limited resource for any of us is time. And this is a tool, or the start of a tool, that we can use to help focus time. Is I've created 4 new fields on my account object. The first field is the impact of COVID. The second field is how much I can help them, or what potential I have to help them. And then the last one, or the third one, is just the yes, no, can we help? The fourth field is a hidden field, which is a scoring field. But these are just 3 simple questions that we can get our salespeople to start looking at their book of business that'll help us better identify next steps.
So what I wanted to know was, like, for growth potential, since it has a lot of subjectivity, if you ask a lot of people, would you recommend creating some kind of a criteria for that so that you can determine really what potential means?
Maybe, but I don't think that's necessary. And,
Okay.
and let me tell you why, Dan, is this tool is going to be used by each individual rep a little bit differently. As long as I'm just targeting my business and you're targeting your business, it shouldn't matter that much. Should growth potential be a 1 if we think we can help them grow 5 to 10%, 2 if we think they can grow 10 to 12? Yes, that certainly is a possibility. And I like that idea. If that's something that works in your environment, I think that's the right way to go, because ultimately I think you're going to get there anyhow.
Right. So what you said probably is more accurate, actually. If I know my own customers best, it's up to me to score it. That makes more sense than to have people who are not as close to the customers make those determinations.
Our bank is thinking of going for field service lightning. We had a presentation from Salesforce, but I was wondering whether we should spend that much of money rather than, just for branch appointments, because since COVID, with this whole COVID-19 situation, now branches are doing appointments. You can go only by appointment, and then thinking of using this tool. We can use just a Google Calendar for the branch, right? And put it on the website rather than buying this. It has too much capability, I think.
You got to take a look at the total functionality that FSL offers, and the total cost of implementing your Google Calendar solution. Are you going to integrate your Google Calendar back with your Salesforce instance? So are you going to know when I'm at a certain spot or a certain place? One of the big wins of Field Service Lightning is the skills matrix. And that may not be something that's valuable to your branch people. So for example, let's say that somebody needs to be Series 6 certified, licensed to do business in a certain state, and some other third criteria. And so if a customer calls and wants to set an appointment, how do you route this appointment, making sure that the person that gets this appointment has the appropriate credentials to handle it. And so now the question is, what are we going to do with this data? And so I've created a couple of reports, both very, very straightforward reports. This is just very cut and dry. And it says, all right, for my account base, and I've got 1,000 accounts, kind of a normal distribution. Most people are moderately affected. Some people very highly affected. And some people haven't been affected that much. I want to take a look at this graph and say, now what do we do with this graph? We've asked our people to collect information, and now we want to know what to do with the graph. And so Salesforce allows me, as we know, to click directly on there, and I can get my detailed information here. And so now as a rep, let's say I had those 1,000 accounts. Let's say I only have time to call 25. I have now segmented that 1,000 accounts book of business into 15 people quickly using Salesforce tools, segment 20 accounts to focus my efforts on. But I want to talk about next steps with this model, because the fourth field, I've created a COVID score. And the way that I did the COVID score for each of these people was adding a weight to the impact and potential grid. And so these were each of the scores that I gave the accounts based on the answers to the impact questions. And then if I gave each of my accounts a weight based on this, I found out I got, I don't know, it would be only 4 or 5 unique account numbers, and it wouldn't be very easily segmented. And so what I did in order to get a better distribution, and this is where we're really getting into the steroids here, to get a better distribution of what my accounts looked like here, and you can see what these scores are, is they're all very different. All right, take this score, multiply it times 5, and then I created another ranking based on these 3 criteria. How long have they been a customer? Their prior period revenue, and then an industry/demographic. I've taken this COVID score, I've applied some standard deviations, some very statistical analysis, and it's all inside of Salesforce, but I've given now my sales reps, and if I go to, this is the whole company, if I go to each of the sales reps, what I'm gonna have is I'm gonna have a targeted group, again, of 10% on either side, or 10% of my book of business is where I'm gonna spend my time. So that's, if you could show a graph that looks like the first graph we saw, just the segmentation graph that shows, you know, an executive, the bar graph that says, here's most of our customers. I've graphed it this way. They'll love that. You know, to be able to click on this link and see who these people are is a huge win.
So you've clearly done this a few times before. I wanted to ask you, you know, how were your results? Like, did you find you had to go back and tweak your algorithm after implementing it? Or like, what were the lessons learned after doing this a few times? Like kind of the early mistakes you may have made?
Normally we end up tweaking to get the business value out of it. And so let me give you a specific example. Is we had a customer that wanted to invite, I don't know, 200 people, 200 of their key businesses to a luncheon. And we started with 14,000 people in the geography, and we kept identifying different measures until we got the right 250. And so in this scenario, we changed the model to get to who we thought our best 250 were. Customers have used this several times because they'll use this next year to target a different group. So that's why I created these fields called COVID Impact COVID Score, is because next year I may want to segment my customers differently. And then at that point in time, I'll create different variables, a different weighting factor, and I have a utility that I just pass in the list that returns the numbers.
Felice has a question, so before I say goodbye, I can hand it off to her. I just wanted to make one quick comment on job title. Many people know me, who know me, know I'm a data guy. So quick little tip on that is create a secondary field for a functional job title with a controlled pick list. So this way you can actually get much more value use out of that field, because job titles vary so much when they're really the same thing. So it allows you to standardize data, things like job title. Go ahead, Felice.
Thanks. Hi. So
Hey.
I'm new to the, I guess, tech side of this in a way. My background is sales, and what I've found a lot of times is that the people, not you guys, but other people in my past who've done implementations don't really understand the business enough. So I guess one thing I would say is that it's important for people to understand, like, for example, how people are compensated, how the revenue flows, to understand what's important. And a lot of times I mean, that can be complex, but that's how you can start, I guess, proactively making suggestions. But my question was, again, you suggested, I thought it was a great idea. I've gone to many events where I've seen completely unqualified people there and they're spending a lot of money. As you mentioned, being in a room, but how do you, is there any way to quickly do some kind of model where things that you would think are obvious, like length of time being a customer is important, to find out, like, wait, which of these parameters that you always thought were important aren't really that important? Is there any way to, like, kind of go back on maybe prior events, or just any other suggestions you have to quickly do that?
So what may be interesting to me today might not be interesting tomorrow. And so I may have a drive at my company to do new business. And so what I want to do then is I want to heavily weight people who have not done a lot of business with me. Next year, I may have a drive to do, manufacturers that are in the tech worlds. One of the big things in Salesforce, in my opinion, is reusability. Is because I try and reuse things that have worked for me in the past. And so when I built a model, let me rephrase this, as I build the model, I build it so that it is flexible, so that it is reusable, so that this thing today, this COVID thing, high impact, low impact, medium impact, how much can I help? I'm going to have different criteria next week or next month or next year. And so I want my model to be able to adapt to that as well. You just you make it flexible and you work it a couple of times and then you work that plan. You plan it, you work it, you see where it gets you.
Right. You make a good point for working smarter, not harder.
Michael, I have a piggyback comment/question on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Depending on the instance and how it's already set up for each one of our businesses and business models, if there are specific tools in place, let's say you have Qualtrics or any other survey tool that you're already using, or you're using Pardot and you're using the customer journey, I think your model applies there too. You don't necessarily have to build what you build on the back end in the same fashion. You can probably use one of those tools to just kind of dig in and add additional data points there and continue to reach out to your customer base in the same fashion that you have before COVID, and just kind of amend it using whatever capabilities you already have in place. Again, going back to the same idea of reusing functionality that you have. Do you agree to that, or do you think that would make it a little bit more complex, or more complex than necessary?
I don't think it's more complex than necessary. So if I used Qualtrics to capture the information, and I used Pardot to segment and reach out, I still need to, I still see that there's a value in mining the data that you're currently capturing.
Right, you still have to do the calculation, right? You still have to get your score, yeah.
Right, yeah, you still have to do the score. And to be honest with you, I've been in this business a very long time, and you have to give people a reason to do the work. I have to give salespeople a reason to enter data into my system. And this is just another reason to capture good data.
Okay. But look, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It's great to see some familiar names as well. That would normally be at the meetup and things, and people like Jack and Matthew and Vegeta. It's all good to see people getting involved. Thank you, Michael, as well. Real pleasure. I thought that was really interesting, even from our side, from my side. And thank you for kind of being involved with that. And
certainly, glad to help out.
Thank you. And also, yeah, Kira as well for setting this up as usual. So we're going to continue doing these things as well, lunch and learns as well. So, you know, you'll see more from us. Any feedback, guys, if anyone wants to get involved, any topics that they'd be interested to, you know, hear about, you know, please share on the meetup page group, so we can look into that. We'll also be doing a slightly longer meetup, either the 4th or the 12th, or sorry, the 4th or the 11th of June, which is going to be focused on Commerce Cloud and the e-commerce space. So we've got two gentlemen, one that's very strong on the B2B side and Cloud Craze, and then someone else coming kind of, you know, chatting about the B2C and the demandware side of things. So we should hopefully have that out within the week, some more details on that, and that'll be an evening session, 6 to 8, a little bit longer. But it'd be great to see as many people there as possible as well. But yeah, thank you very much.
Just thank you everyone for joining. Have a great weekend, and we'll keep you posted via LinkedIn, the meetup pages on the next one.